Thanks to Massdrop, they've got a lot of cool gear, and they utilize the power of group buys to save you money. You can check them out at massdrop.com or click on the link in the description. Thanks to Corsair, they've got a lot of new stuff going on. Be sure to check out all of our booth coverage by clicking on the link in the description. Thanks to you guys, our Patreon members and our tech support members. We are trying to expand and hire new people, and we want to keep the integrity of our content. Thanks for giving. You guys are awesome.
GIGABYTE. We're here and we have the sign behind us. It says Gaming Workstation Industrial. So we're going to show you guys this line of motherboards that GIGABYTE is coming out with right now. They have a workstation-y feel. They have digi-camo. I don't know how to talk about the aesthetics because it's kind of like, I don't know, military to some degree. But these are not your typical like Z170 or Z170, whatever, motherboards. These are actually Xeon chipsets or enthusiast chips, not enthusiast, enterprise chipsets. So they're using either the Intel C232 chipset, or I also believe there's a C236. What that gives you access to is Xeons, basically. It also allows you to use ECC memory, which is kind of nice. You can also do Core i3s, Pentiums, and Celeron processors. So there's a lot of flexibility for what CPU you might be able to grab and use with this board. What we're told is that in a lot of the Asia-Pacific countries, especially in gaming houses and LAN events where they bring people in and you can rent out a computer to play a game for a while, they'll use these because you can get a Xeon which will perform perfectly fine for gaming, and that'll give you an extra $50-100+ bucks to spend on a graphics card. So you can go with the 980 instead of a 970 or something like that.
All right, so check this action out. So as you can see here, this one's kind of minimal as far as everything on the board goes. It's got everything you need except for M.2 in my opinion. I would really like to, I know it's kind of small and you can step up in size, but I would like to have the extreme storage options with this one, but you don't really have it. One of the things I do like about it is that you can build a nice small rig to use for work and gaming. Like Paul was saying, the Xeons, they're kind of like a non-K i7. So you won't be able to as easily overclock them. Maybe you can do you can probably mess with the strap a little bit, but I usually don't recommend it because they throw errors back. Anyway, it's just going to be an interesting platform. The focus will be stability all the way around. It'll end up being a good platform for a lot of different things, but don't expect it to be that much cheaper than the gaming platform, but it should be tested to be a bit more stable in some circumstances with the Xeon. And it may work with the i7 and i5. We should drop one in there and see. It should power on, but GIGABYTE doesn't endorse that. It hasn't been tested and all that kind of stuff, but it should work.
Of course, we've been focusing a lot on this little tiny kind of micro ATX. It's very cute, very versatile. It goes all the way up the line. So here's more of a standard size micro ATX board. This one does have an M.2 in there, 32 gigabits per second, as well as more expansion and all that good stuff. Moving up the line, we have kind of the skinny version of ATX right there. I don't know how I suddenly went into a southern accent. It's because Logan's standing next to me and I couldn't help it.
You're just drawing off my powers.
I don't even do a southern accent. Anyway, let us know what you guys think of some of the aesthetics of these. They went with kind of a digi-camo design. It's got a lot of the same kind of fit and finish as their gaming line does. So actually that one even says G1 Gaming on it. Is this part of the G1 Gaming series? I don't know.
You get over here, you start getting into these are, X170.
Oh, these are, X170, so X170, yeah, just to explain to you guys, is kind of a made-up chipset name that GIGABYTE did.
What does it mean?
The actual chipset is C232. So yeah, most of these are using C232. There's also a C236 version up there that also has a G1 Gaming logo on it. So I imagine that's going to give you, I don't know all the specs of these chipsets. So guys, help us out in the comments. Let us know if these chipsets have RAID support and that kind of thing. Wait, Kane wants to say something.
I want to talk a little bit about this one because this one's got some really awesome stuff. Not only does it got the UEFI dual BIOS, but it's got onboard dual gigabit LAN, USB 3.1, 3.0, and it's both Type A and Type C. And it's got onboard HDMI and DisplayPort. It's this thing's kind of a beast. It's got SLI support, Crossfire, all that wonderful jazz. It's got a killer Ethernet 2400 on there, and it's got SATA Express slots. And it's got dual M.2s.
That's nice. That's so nice.
Gigabyte has their new Extreme gaming line. You know it's Extreme because they left the E off of it. It starts only with the X. But this is their 980 Ti, and this actually comes in a couple different varieties. I did a video over on my channel of the all-in-one closed-loop water-cooled version. This is the air-cooled version, which in my personal opinion I think looks aesthetically a lot nicer. As you can see, it's got flashing RGB LEDs on all of them fans there. So they've set up a demo here, and I believe if I cycle through this, it's going to just go through some of the different LED light-up variations. So I've got some flashing red and changing colors to different things. Are there any non? Oh, look, there's a nice breathing one. I think that one's a little bit less erratic. But yeah, as you can see, tons of different options for the RGB lighting on all of them fans. I imagine one of those cases that you can get with like a PCIe extension ribbon cable, so you could actually get a better look at that would be pretty cool. But these things overclock like absolute beasts. That was my favorite thing about the water-cooled version. This one out of the box has a base clock of 1216 and a boost of 1317, and that probably means, estimating in reality, it's going to be running at well over 1400 megahertz. And I was able to overclock mine to 1525 with like almost zero effort, and I'm pretty sure I could have pushed it further than that. I've heard of people getting theirs with the stock cooling solutions that Gigabyte puts on there, well up to 1550 with a 980 Ti, not a 980. That's pretty insane. So for overclocking and really high level gaming, that's a pretty beastly card right now if you can't wait for the Pascal stuff to come out.
Gigabyte laptops. Now we've seen most of these gaming laptops before, but they have all been updated to Skylake. So there they all are, the P34 and the P35, the P37 in 3 different sizes. Now let's check out what's new here. Now this is the P55, 15-inch, and a lot of people like this one because it had the the 970M inside, the GTX 970M. So you get a lot of speed, decent size, possibly a little thick, but it's it's a gaming laptop that can also be used for as a workstation, or just people who work and game. They're going to like this. Well, they updated it, and now we have a 17-inch model, very similar specs, but this one will go all the way up to a 980M. So it'll be a little bit faster. And one thing that's really cool about this one, yes, it's 17 inches, and that gives them more horizontal space, so it's thinner. And I really like that. I guess depending on if you have a big enough backpack, it should be nice and thin in your backpack, not as much of a bulge. People are weird about bulges. Quick look at the ports here. We've got your USB 3, DisplayPort, and HDMI, plus VGA. I mainly wanted to show this because all of these have HDMI 2.0, all that we've looked at so far. And that means 60 hertz, 4K. Freaking amazing. Let's check out the professional laptops. Now this is the P37X version 5. It's got a pretty good display. They're saying 60% of the NTSC. That's a strange standard. But if we move over here to the new version, though that's not the version 5, this is the version 5. The new version, full 4K IPS display that can do 100% of the Adobe RGB gamut. So that's pretty nice. As far as the other specs and everything goes, this thing feels really nice. Oh yeah, I kind of want this. But that's the main thing. It's really hard to find a laptop with a monitor that's going to give you those specs. So that's the main thing I wanted to highlight here. And if you guys are, doing some productivity, you might want to look into this just for the display. As far as the ports and everything goes, again, you're going to get, it's going to be loaded. We got the Type-C over here. How about that? USB 3.1, and then we got VGA, and all of the HDMI is going to be 2.0. So all of the ports are going to support 4K at 30 hertz.
We're talking about BRIXs, or BRIXies, or Brie. I'm going to call them Brie from now on. All right, so here's a BRIX. If you guys aren't familiar, Gigabyte's tiny little single all-in-one box computer. This is a new version of it. First off, they've ditched the glossy black plastic, which is fantastic because everybody hates glossy black plastic. It's still plastic cover, but it's got kind of a faux brushed aluminum finish on it, as you can probably see there. Looks pretty nice, and I don't mind the faux brushed aluminum plastic because it does a pretty decent job of not picking up fingerprints, and they've also added a little bit more rubber base on the bottom to keep it from sliding around, that good stuff. And then these are also now Skylake models, so they actually have a Broadwell and a Skylake here. But these have new stuff. So instead of the older storage standards that they used before, which were M-SATA, as well as they had a little bit of PCI going on in there, and then the second generation they brought in the M.2, but it was only for the accessory M.2, which you could use to connect like a Wi-Fi card. These newest ones have everything M.2. So you got M.2 for your Wi-Fi. You also have the other keyed M.2, which is the good one, which means you can drop in an actual M.2 SSD, which everybody wants. Apart from that, you're going to be able to find these in a ton of different flavors. You're able to get them as kind of a bare bones model and then pick your own storage and that kind of thing. And then they've added a couple new features to some of, like this one has an AS media chip in it, which allows them to do not just the USB 3.0, but also USB 3.1, and they've given you both a Type A connector as well as a Type C connector on there. This one also has dual Ethernet jacks. I bet you guys could figure out something useful to do with this. Tiny little mini computer, dual Ethernet, M.2. As far as outputs on this one, at least, they're pretty similar for video outs and whatnot. You got HDMI as well as DisplayPort, and then you got that Ethernet, well, the two Ethernets, a couple of super speed USB 3.0, Kensington lock, and your power connector. They also made the power button look more flashy. It's a flashy power button. Gigabyte's also working on a passive model here, so if you don't like fans, if you're not a fan of fans, they have this one, which is just kind of a demo they have going on right now. But hey, look, it's got nice heat sink there on the top, and even like your Wi-Fi antenna connectors in the back. So yeah, it'd be cool to see a completely fanless, silent version of these. And it's amazing, I think, what Gigabyte is able to smash into some of these form factors here. For instance, right here is another kind of demo version that they're working on again. Just something they're playing around with. This is ultra wide or extra long. This is an enterprise variant, so it has, for instance, it's capable of 4K video outs. So for digital signage or that kind of thing, it actually has a GTX 950, one of their kind of custom versions of that. It's integrated, and again, this is kind of more for enterprise use and that kind of thing. So it's a little bit on the larger side as far as the length goes. And we were told that if they do make a consumer version that's a little bit more akin to this, they'll probably make it shorter, like maybe about 2/3 the length of that one, but still pretty tiny.
All right, check this out. Over the next coming few days, you're going to hear a lot about Thunderbolt 3 across the board. Everyone's going to be talking about this because it's amazing, it's new, and they're going to throw a bunch of specs at you and the theoretical maximums. And I really don't care about those because this is a Thunderbolt monitor plugged into a Thunderbolt hard drive, plugged into a motherboard that's got an onboard PCI Express Intel drive. This is insanely fast connectivity between all of these. Now they've got a folder sitting on one of these drives that's got 6,660 files in it. It's all image files, so they're various sizes, small things. It's a lot of files. And it's 75 gigs of files. We're going to transfer it across from one drive to the other. And between the PCI Express drive and the Thunderbolt 3 drive, we're looking at 800, I think this thing peaks out right around 830, 840 megabytes a second. That's megabytes. Whole entire transfer is going to take place in just under a minute and a half. Of course, it's Windows, so you never really know what the time in that actually means. This is crazy. 75 gigs of files in a minute and a half. If only my download speeds were that fast.